This is Peak Productivity, the podcast for Asana lovers and productivity nerds. Today, with Bastien Siebman, we're going to talk about AI, Asana intelligence, and also about the key elements to have a successful deploy of Asana in your organization, and also about how to plan the end of the year with Asana. Welcome to Peak Productivity. Let's go. Good morning, Bastien. How are you?
Good morning. I'm really good. How are you?
Good. It's been a while. We have been pretty busy this October. They say it's Techtober because there are many launches in the tech industry, many meetings, many conferences. We also had the pleasure to meet in person in London a couple of weeks
We
ago.
did. It was pretty
Yeah,
nice.
which was awesome in a Asana Partners Summit, and with plenty of things to talk about in our show today. Let's get started. Let's talk about the most hyped word in the tech industry in the past months: AI. Finally, Asana has new AI features. How do you feel about these new features?
It's a mixed feeling. I think we talked about this already in previous episodes. Um, I think AI is great if you give it clean data. And I feel like most of the project and tasks that I see in my clients' accounts are not that clean. They don't name things properly. They don't use due dates. They don't use dependencies. Um, so I'm still waiting to see how all of this AI will be able to work with a set of data that is not that clean. I've tried some of those features. It's pretty impressive depending on the use case. So yeah, really waiting to see. What do you think?
Yeah, I think that in this first release that it's let's say there are features on a task level, like summarizing the
Yeah,
description or
I think we
generating
will be able to
tasks.
list all the features afterwards. But yeah.
Yeah, it's let's say it's fine. I agree with you that it will require educating users to be precise when adding a title to a task and when writing the description of the task. I think that when the features at a project and portfolio level are released, it will be a real boost in productivity. Because I think that probably this first release is nice to have features, but when it comes to project status or generating for instance, the one that I like most now is when you write the description of a project and ask to suggest custom fields, and it suggests custom fields, you can add them at it and it fills the content like I think that this task is high priority or this is low priority. I think that it's a good step in the right direction. It will help project managers to plan and to write down their projects. And I think that the more we go in that direction, the more time we'll save these features.
It's interesting example because I do not agree. I think this one is not that good for a couple of reasons. Based on the test that we've done, Asana is suggesting way too many fields. And I've seen cases where it would suggest like three different statuses, like a priority, a status, in addition to another status custom field. So I'm afraid that people will not think, and they will end up with projects that do not look the way they would if we were to create that project ourselves with all the knowledge and experience that we have. The second
Yeah.
problem, yeah,
Mhm. Sorry.
and the second problem we've seen is that, and again, this is something that's happening very often within Asana. They do not push for library fields, and they push for new fields being created. It's the same thing with the new custom field gallery. They push for new fields being created, which is a big problem because down the road, 6 months later, you end up working with that client. They have fields everywhere. It's a big mess, and you have to work hours and hours to consolidate everything. So it's a good idea, but I think the execution is lacking and not following the best practices.
Yeah, that was going that was going to be my next question. If because with the test that I made, I wasn't checking what you just said. If Asana Intelligence was pulling custom fields from the organization library, or if it was creating uh, brand new custom fields. And I think that this is important because in for the sake or consistency, it's very important. This is one of the problems that I find in my clients more often. They don't have the custom fields in the library, so reporting, filtering, and all these features uh, don't have the full potential.
Yeah,
And you
and
have to migrate information to fields in the library, and then it's a lot of time.
and don't get me wrong, it's super hard to do. The product team has a very hard job because I think picking the right field from the library is really hard. Especially if you look at something like priority, each company probably has a couple of priority fields because each department has one. So which one do you pick? It's really hard to choose. And in that specific example, you have to pick one. You can't just say to the user, we have 5 different fields, which one do you want? So maybe you need to have a concept of approved fields or something. It's a complex topic. But yeah, I think it's gonna. I'm a bit afraid that all the AI features will distract the users, and everything we try to teach them about the basics, like writing a task name properly, using a due date properly. I think all of that stuff might be um, put away because people will try to use AI right away, and the result will not be that good. It's the same thing if you look at one of the feature, which is automatically adding subtasks based on what is within the description. Subtasks are not always the solution. There's a lot of cases where you do not want subtasks. There's a lot of cases where you do want subtasks, but in some cases you don't want them. And we spend hours teaching clients, like, this use case, you do not need subtasks. You should potentially use tasks being dependent or stuff like this. If they start using AI, you're going to have subtasks everywhere, and it's going to make things worse. And yeah, I feel like we're trying to fix something that they are, um, um, how do you say this? They are pushing people to do something we are trying to fix.
Yeah, the feature is going in the opposite
Exactly.
direction. The
Yeah.
one the one we are driving the customers. In the episode notes, you mentioned embedded chat GPT.
Yeah, because I think it's not the actual name of the feature, but we know that there's something that's coming, which is a button in the project view in the top right corner that allows you to ask question to ChatGPT, basically, because I think that's the technology that's behind. And that one is pretty interesting for the main reason that ChatGPT is a paid tool if you want to have access to the latest one, I think. And also, ChatGPT is usually using your data to train the model, which is not the case with Asana. So it could give us a way to use ChatGPT without actually paying and going to the OpenAI website. So I think that's pretty exciting. I'm still waiting to see how powerful this assistant will be, and especially if that assistant will have knowledge of the actual tasks and the project and all that's within. I recently realized something. I was on the forum this morning, and someone says there's another feature that we haven't talked about, which is pre-writing status updates. So automatically writing status updates at the project level. And apparently that status update doesn't see subtasks. So it doesn't pull anything from
Oh,
subtasks, which is not surprising because we know that subtasks do not belong to the project. Um, but it adds some confusion, and it's going to put some fuel on the fire of those discussions that are happening on the forum.
uh, yeah, yeah, definitely. This subtasks topic is going to run forever. I wanted to explain you. Maybe you are already using this, but I find it quite useful in terms of using ChatGPT to enrich your Asana processes. and it's how to generate a project using ChatGPT, at least the very first draft for a project. And it was setting up the prompt like, okay, you're an Asana project manager and you work for an architecture firm,
Company.
and you need to create a template for architecture projects. So please generate a CSV with all the task sections, custom fields, and it generates a file that you can download as a CSV and then create a project with that CSV. And it's quite good, quite good. Probably it still requires some human interaction and some human touch, especially the touch from the client, because each company is different. But to get things started, it speeds up quite a lot the very first stage, that part where you are asking the client to either send you a list of tasks or stages or milestones. It's like, okay, let's start with this. Is it okay? Yeah, it's fine. And then we perfect that content. But I found it quite useful.
Yeah, it's a pretty cool use case. We use ChatGPT almost daily, as I do. We use it to write emails. We use it to find the right emoji to convey specific information. We use it to do some searches as well. And I know that my colleague Arthur has been using it, just like you just explained, to generate some content and also to generate some fake content to put in our demo space. Because when you have a fake task and you want to write an actual description, it's really hard to invent something. So he uses it to fill in the demo space.
Yeah, dummy content. It's a good dummy content generator, and
Exactly.
especially if you have to demo for a certain industry or a type of company. It's like, well, maybe you don't know the inside information for that company, but you say, okay, please generate a project for a company that works this type of business or for this type of clients, and it does the work quite well. Anything else about these AI features
Yeah,
that?
maybe we can list them all, at least the ones
Sure.
that are officially launching. So we have the I think summarize a task feature. You have the assistant that is embedded into Asana, so the chat GPT within Asana. We have the add subtasks automatically based on the description, I think. You have the ability to rephrase a comment and change the tone. I think that's one
Yeah.
as well. You have the
Extend
ability,
or shorten.
yeah, exactly. You have the ability to automatically write status updates at the project level. You have the custom field suggestion in the customized menu, as well as the project creation assistant that suggests, I think, sections and custom fields as well. We know there are more things coming, and when we met at the Partner Summit the next day, there was some announcement around AI. I can't share anything, but there's at least 5 or 6 other stuff in the pipeline around AI and linked to other features within Asana. It's pretty exciting. The demo was interesting. Raises a lot of questions, so we're waiting to see how it's going to work. But yeah, very interesting. But again, I think the people should not be distracted too much. And as long as you don't have a clean My Task view and not an empty inbox, having AI around doesn't help you. You have to get a hold of your tasks, be very clean, be organized, and then you can get the best out of the AI features, I think.
Yeah, definitely. And what I've noticed too is that they are the product team is A/B testing the position of some elements, like
Yeah, potentially.
the subtask generator or the text editing. So many things being tested. Um, I understand that for the best user experience possible, and again, this is something new. It's day by day evolving, so we will keep an eye on that and reporting here in our podcast. You mentioned My Task, Inbox Zero. This is probably that season of the year where we start planning next year, and also most of these tasks can be done using Asana. What's in your end of the year checklist in Asana? What are your recommendations for businesses using Asana to do when we are in mid-November, December?
Yeah, so my tasks and inbox, those are really my thing. That's my quest. I want to get people to use them properly and stay on top of things. So I think by the end of the year, you should try to at least reach inbox zero once, just to get that extra feeling of accomplishment, as well as just going through your tasks and cleaning things up. It's actually quite easy. You can do something and complete the task. You can delegate to someone. You can also delete something that you're never going to do. That's a good one. It's the end of the year and there are some tasks in there. You know that you're not going to do them. And if it's not important or urgent, you can just delete those stuff. And if it's important, it's going to come back. If you don't want to delete, you can always move things into project like backlogs. And I do that a lot. I have lots of ideas. They go into backlogs, unassigned from everyone. It's not assigned to me. If you do this, you might be able to reach a pretty short list of tasks. And the last time I did that, I actually reached 4 tasks. I had 4 tasks in my tasks.
Whoa.
The rest was in backlogs or had a specific due date for later in the year. That was amazing. Like 4 tasks. It was incredible. Right now, if you look at my task view, I might have 30 or 40, which is pretty good as well. The rest is either archived in a backlog or delegated or has a due date. So that would definitely be my advice. And then beyond your own tasks, just go through your project, archive project you're not using anymore, delete portfolios you're not using, complete goals that are done. Just do like a massive cleanup to start fresh.
You suggest so. For instance, if I find some interesting reading or an article or a blog post or a podcast or whatever, I usually generate a task, and I am the assignee of that task. So I have in my task, I have a not time related section with all these tasks. From your statement, what I understand is that you suggest to create a project to put all this information as a reference or as a backlog and assign those tasks so they are not showing up on my task.
Yeah, so what I realized is, to me, it doesn't make sense to be assigned on 20 blog posts to read. However, what I do is I move those tasks in a project called Read or Watch, and then I assign myself one task that says read or watch something. And that task is recurring. The recurring pattern is periodically every 5 days, something like this. So when I read a blog post, I complete the task, and then I'm free. My mind is free for 5 days, and 5 days later, that task comes back, triggering me to read something else. And I have this system of rolling tasks, and I use this for a lot of different things. For example, when I have to clean something that's huge, like thousands of stuff to clean out, instead of assigning myself on all the stuff I have to clean, I have one task that says do some cleanup, and it's recurring every 2 to 3 days. So every 2 to 3 days, I do some cleanup. That's basically the Kaizen methodology. You do baby steps until one day you realize you actually cleaned up 1,000 stuff. To me, that's the best approach, because you have one single task in your My Task instead of having that massive chunk of tasks you keep moving around or you put into sections and you never go there. To me, that works better.
Cool. Do you follow, or are you a fan of any of the typical methodologies like getting things done, or more recently the para method by Tiago Forte? Any of these methodologies do you think that fit on your daily routines or your daily operations?
I didn't pick one officially. I think I ended up using some of the methods from all of these different frameworks. For example, GTD, I tried reading the book. It was awful. It's so long. It's like an American style book where they put so much stuff that is useless. and you can basically summarize the entire book in 2 pages. And I think some of the things I do on a daily basis are actually GTD stuff, like capturing ideas and stuff like this that's come from GTD. And every time I read a new framework, most of the stuff they suggest is something that I already do. It doesn't have the same name. It's not exactly the same thing, but the concept is always the same. So I don't follow any specific framework, but I try to find something that works best for me. And I also make sure that my system evolves. For example, the sections I have in my tasks, I think right now it's the fourth or fifth version of sections, at least section names. And I keep changing the system because I get better at Asana, because I have different way of working, a different style. I also have way more people I can delegate things to. So my system has to evolve from when I was just by myself to now with a team of about 12 people I work with. So yeah, the system evolves, and I cherry pick the best things from all the different frameworks. Do you follow one framework specifically?
I would say a mix of them. I enjoy reading this type of books. Some are better than others, but
Yeah.
I enjoy, and I think that taking a bit from here and a bit from there, it's the right formula. From an individual perspective, what I think that it's important is to be consistent also at an organizational level. So having some policies and having conventions in place, and having the systems and protocols and processes and programs in place for the whole organization. I'm curious, and I haven't started yet the Tiago Forte book,
Yep.
the Para Method. I think that it tackles the archiving problem, or the archiving processes, to have all this content that it's not needed for projects, or it's not an asset for your current daily operations, that needs to be in an archive. Talking
Yeah,
about
actually, yeah, now that you
sorry.
talked about this, so individually, I don't follow anything specific, but as a company, we started to implement the EOS framework, entrepreneurial operating system. It's pretty amazing because when actually, my partner Julian, when he started reading about EOS, it actually matched the way we were already kind of structured. So you have an accountability chart, and at the top you have two different roles that are very specific, which are the visionary and the integrator. And in that case, I'm the visionary, so I have lots of ideas and I'm impatient and
No
creative.
doubt about it.
And my partner is the integrator. And the idea is that I'm going to throw at him all the ideas that I have, and he's going to filter everything. And then he will be able to decide what should be implemented or shouldn't be implemented. And then the rest of the organization is organized with different functions like marketing, sales, operations, and finance. And within each function, you then break it down into smaller pieces. So we've started to do this, and it was pretty mind blowing when we read about it first, and we're starting to do the implementation. It's pretty exciting.
Does it mix well with Asana?
Yet to be seen. We're starting to implement. We'll find a way, obviously, to do that, but we're starting to. I think it kind of does, and the way the framework works, it looks a lot like the pyramid of clarity. You have long-term goals, short-term goals. Those short-term goals then get divided into each function. So you do have everything from goals to portfolios to project to tasks. So it does fit pretty well. We'll see how it goes, but it's pretty good.
For those who are listening or viewing us, you can read more about this framework. It's eosworldwide.com. We will add the link in the show notes, and it's pretty interesting. And this drives me to the last topic we had for this episode. That it's, what do you have to consider if you plan to deploy Asana in your company? I think that most of the people that are listening to us know what is Asana, and probably most of them are already using Asana. But if you are listening to this podcast and you are considering adding Asana to your stack of productivity tools, what you have to keep in mind. What's your advice on that topic?
Yeah, so I do have three things, and maybe you have more. I think the first thing you need is leadership engagement. The leadership, the top level of the company, they have to be involved and they have to be ready to use Asana as well. Because we've seen some companies where the CEO would say, I do not need Asana, but my team, they need Asana. I'm not going to use it. They will put some slides together for me. I don't want to go to portfolios. It's just for my team. If you do this, it doesn't work because the adoption is going to be hard, and some people is going to hide behind the fact that even the leadership doesn't use Asana. So you need leadership engagement. I think the second thing you need is champions. So the champions are the people within the company that will be the faces of Asana and will be the people that anyone can turn to if they have a question. That's super important. You do not want to be relying on consultants all the time, but you do need consulting. That's my third tip. You do want to have a team, like people like you and I, working with you at least at first to put you in the right direction, do some training, train everybody, and make sure that the processes you put in place can scale. Beyond that point, the champions can take over, but I think you do need those three things: consulting to help you start, champions to drive the change, and leadership engagement. Would you agree? Anything else?
Yeah, I totally agree. So having the highest sponsor possible in an organization, it's mandatory to have a success. Otherwise, the, the 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 implementation can fail, because if
So
the
yeah, one sponsor at the highest level, but the rest of the highest level has to agree as well.
totally, yeah, I agree. Having the champions, it's the level zero support. So having someone in the desk next to yours that is friendly and knows Asana and can help you, and you don't have to open a ticket to in Asana or with your partner, will make things easier. I would add having the right mindset. Asana is a very flexible, open tool that it's meant to be used by people that you are super confident working with them. If you are concerned about people changing due dates or
Yep.
people delegating tasks with bad faith, let's say, Asana is not for you. You need something more closed, more strict. Asana is based on having a commitment from all the team, and where everyone relies on their colleagues in the organization. Otherwise, you'll spend a lot of time checking task logs or checking project logs to see who changed what when, and then, as I said, I think that Asana is not for you. So having this conversation prior to other topics in the engagement, like pricing or schedule, or what includes a package or the licenses. Okay, is does your organization have the mindset to use Asana? But I agree on those topics that you mentioned. And
I do have another one though. Now that you say this, I think you have to be like any tool. With any tool, you have to be ready to make a compromise. And we see people that are very good at just following the way the tool works. And if something doesn't work, it's fine. We find a workaround. And on the other end of the spectrum, we have clients telling us, I want to export a portfolio. I want the slide to look like this, and I want the company logo in the top right corner. And if it's not this way, it doesn't work. The adoption will fall apart. If you're not willing to make even those small compromise, it's not going to work, because you're going to keep hitting roadblocks, because the tool is obviously not done specifically for you. It's done for a lot of people. So you have to be using the tool the way it was designed to be used. And sometimes I hope that people realize this after they start using the tool, because that could be a pretty hard client to deal with.
yeah, and it's impossible to list before starting everything that you will need. It's important to understand that Asana is a neutral tool, that it's adjustable, but it's not fully adjustable, so it has some constraints. Another topic is, or another question that I have to answer quite often is, why do I need a consultant? Why do I need an Asana expert? And I always say, you don't need one. What we will do is we will save you time and frustrations. There's a lot of content. There are a lot of YouTube videos. There's a lot of information in the Asana Academy website. So you can take your courses. You can even certificate part of your team, but it will sure take longer. And in the way you will find, as you said, some roadblocks that it will be difficult to tackle. At the end of the day, we have worked with many organizations. So when you present as a problem, it's very possible that we already faced that in the past, so we can explain you different options to solve it. But it's just that we save time and frustrations, nothing else. We are not some wizards or magicians. No, that's it.
And also
Do
we
you agree on
are,
that?
yeah, I do agree. And also we are not that expensive, so they can work with us and save time.
That's right.
Um,
That's right.
but I do agree with you. And even if they end up with a workflow that's working, that workflow might not scale well when you end up with more people 6 months later. And it's not always easy to rework everything, even if Asana is pretty flexible. So that's also what they can get from our experience, the building something that scales and doesn't break. And I do have one example about this. People tend to add too many custom fields, like for example, a status field. Is the task in progress? Is it blocked? Is it started? And I always tell them it looks good on paper, but I can tell you right now, nobody's going to use them. And you're going to end up with inconsistencies and people completing a task and not changing the status, and it's going to be a nightmare. So even if it looks good on paper, it doesn't scale. And you can trust me on that because I've seen that not working for dozens and dozens of companies.
Not even I somehow disagree with that. Not even in projects that the default view is a board view, and they like a sprint view where they move task from column to column.
Yeah,
So
of course it could. For example, if you look at the developer community, when they use Jira, they have Kanban board, and everybody knows that it's the way it works. It's part of the culture. It's the same thing if you look at time tracking. If you talk to lawyers, they have no problem tracking how many minutes something took. If you speak to an agency that never did any time tracking, I can guarantee you that no one's going to be able to track their time by the
I agree.
minute, and they will feel like they're being spied on, and it doesn't work. Even if, again, on paper, it's amazing, you track everything, you have workload. So it's all about the culture and how people used to work, and you have to make baby steps. If you throw everything at them to a new tool and new ways of working with new constraints, I think it rarely works.
I
There are
agree.
exceptions, of course.
Yeah, it's fine. Well, we reached the end of this ninth episode. Before finishing, I've seen, Bastien, that you have new content about productivity, new daily
Yes.
podcast, new information. Please share the news with us so everyone can follow in
Yeah,
your
thank
new
you. So
channels and content.
yeah, I was doing an Asana morning coffee every morning. I did that 100 times. I'm starting season 2. The change as well is that I'm going to have guests. So maybe I'm going to have you soon, but I've had Larry, I've had Brian, I'm going to have Phil hopefully soon. So I'm starting to have guests and we have long discussions. I'm also planning a 1 hour long discussion with Larry on subtasks. And I want that episode to be like the Bible, like everything you have to know about subtasks that's going to be put into one episode. I'm also doing a new playlist called Decluttered Productivity that talks about productivity and minimalism. Doesn't talk about Asana or project management. So this is something I'm trying. And yeah, we also do lots of different videos about the way we work, so the way we use Asana, the new features, and yeah, lots of stuff, including our newsletter.
Awesome.
Thanks for
So
asking.
if you want to check this content, you can search. You can Google Bastien Siebman, ido-clarity.com, either on Google, YouTube, LinkedIn. You'll find all this amazing free content that helps not only other consultants like myself to know more about Asana, but also everyone in the community. Bastien, again, thank you
Thank
for
you.
this time, and looking forward to the number 10 of our Peak Productivity podcast.
See you soon.
See you.